let's not put ideas like that into the realm.
No.
The unluckiest goalkeeper I've ever seen. Won't be in England.
Still wants to be in England.
I'm going to chuck one in here.
No, not at all.
There isn't really an answer to your question. I know it's a little bit of a cop-out, and I'm sitting on the fence a bit there. But
You ask the questions here. You're the boss. But
You're gonna ask.
may I ask a question of you?
Go on. Hello everybody, well this is cosy, isn't it? Welcome to the debate, which I think is a particularly original title. This is for HaytersTV, where we're going to discuss the burning issues really from the footballing world, not just from the week, but looking ahead maybe to the next week or two, and maybe even slightly longer term, with members of the fourth estate, but I tend not to use that term because it gets lost on the younger generation. So let's say journalists, and we've got bags of experience here at the table. To my left, Patrick Barclay, 50 years operating on Fleet Street, when it used to be Fleet Street.
Yes, I can just about remember.
Written for some top publications, The Guardian, Times, Telegraph. Independent too. And I'm also, I'm willing to be corrected on the odd fact. But also, of course, he's written the books, the biographies regarding Jose Mourinho. Who else have you got? Sir Matt Busby, Sir Alex Ferguson as well. Yeah. Great to have you with us, Paddy.
Thank you. As always, great to be here.
Absolute gentleman. Seb Stafford-Bloor is here as well. Writes for publications such as 442 and for Football 365 and TiVo as well.
Yeah, it's a bit like following Apollo Creed, that, with all
It is, exactly. Adrian!
Yeah.
Well, look, guys, good to see you. So, look, we're here in the capital, and it's 6 months this week that Euro 2020 is up and running. So let's kick off, I suppose, with England's chances. Can England win the European Championship and go that step further after what they did in the World Cup?
Without question. I mean, they, if we cast our mind back to the World Cup, they were knocked out by Croatia, rightly. But since then, and they play Croatia at the kickoff of the, or in the group stage. You look at that Croatia side, who rightly won the semi-final. Brilliant performance. It's aging. The top four players, I suppose, would be Mandzukic, retired from international football. Modric, obviously. Perisic and Rakitic. All of, apart from Perisic, perhaps, all of either lost form or gained age or lost fitness or something. Green shoots of recovery from one or two of the younger players, mid-20s, but really there's a big swing. You look at England, just about everybody's improved. I mean, Trippier, who was arguably the star of the tournament for England, might not get in the team this time. And he's not gone back. I mean, he's had a good transfer and he's doing well in Spain. So and yet the right backs, okay, we played right wing back in that tournament, but the right backs, Trent Alexander-Arnold has come through, potentially the Maldini of England. Aaron Wan-Bissaka, not far behind, arguably better defensively than even Trent Alexander-Arnold. So, and you could name others. Gomez, who I think should be the centre half, can play right back. I mean, and that's two from Liverpool alone. So the riches all over the field are quite extraordinary. Some of them may be a little bit too young, the Hudson-Odois and Sancho. Still, to me, he's a pretty player, but he hasn't proved himself as a killer yet. So it might be a little too soon for them. But most have just got better and better and better. And you might say, well, what about Dele Alli? That has now been, since the change of management there, it's improved his mood. So, no, I think the situation is really bright for England, incredibly so. The only two problems with the team, Ashley Young was getting old last time. Well, they don't need him anymore.
We've got Ben Chilwell now, haven't they?
Ben Chilwell for left back, who is another potentially really, really top player. Okay, we were saying the same thing about Cresswell a few weeks ago. So you've always got to be a few months ago, should I say. So you've got to be careful. Injury and loss of form can affect anybody. But no, I just wish I was an England supporter.
But there's a chance that Scotland could be in the same group, let's not forget. It all comes down to the playoff situation.
Obviously, I won't be an England supporter then.
He still wants to be an English supporter.
I wouldn't be an England supporter.
Doesn't change
But I would love to be, because, I mean, it's such an exciting situation.
Yeah. You still haven't answered my question.
Yes, they can win it.
They can
yes,
win it.
Definitely.
Yeah. So,
especially with the home advantage.
yeah, and that's the other thing, actually, because you've got to take that into account. All their group games are played at Wembley Stadium, the semi-finals and the final two. It's almost geared towards England winning it in many ways.
It kind of is. It does have a little bit of a Euro '96 vibe to it. What I'd say is, though, I mean, it's. I don't think it will feel like a home tournament, because even when England get to the latter stages, they're not going to have the privileges of a home side, so they're not going to have the bulk of the attendance in their favour. They're not necessarily going to have the home dressing room. How much is that worth? We don't really know, but it's a little bit of familiarity.
Playing at Wembley isn't necessarily home advantage.
No, but not
as much as it used to be. I mean, let's face it, 1966 it was a home advantage because the linesman knew what he had to give. Now they're not like that anymore.
No.
He had the little jibe about Chilwell at you.
I know. He battered me and my Leicester kind of bias away. I saw that.
That was a coincidental.
It's a strange concept, though, the Pan-European tournament. It's a.
Are we a fan?
Yeah. I am. Yeah, I thought it was a crazy idea at the time, but
it's a romantic notion, wasn't it?
I think
the fact it's the 60th anniversary.
Yeah, this thing. But I think I like the opportunity it gives to nations to show that they can afford, can potentially host this kind of tournament, this kind of event. I've got a few questions for Alexander Ceferin about some of the places where this tournament is going to take us, and some of the lessons which haven't been learned from Europa League final. Because if we struggled with the idea of taking 10,000 Arsenal and Chelsea fans over to Azerbaijan, we've got some very big nations playing there this time around as well. So I don't know. I'm approaching it with an open mind, but let's see where we are after the tournament finishes. Let's also try and actually hear from fans afterwards, not just judge it on the basis of what it appeared to be on television. Let's see how fans were considered in the process.
Okay. So how have England? What have they learnt, if anything, from that game against Croatia?
Well, I mean, I don't know what Southgate will have learned. All I know is that he will have learned. I mean, he's
as you alluded to, he played three at the back, of course.
Yes,
during that tournament.
He won't do it this time.
I'm seeing very little.
Yeah.
You know, in terms of going back to that for this time, especially what we've seen through qualifying.
I think that would be a surprise. I think particularly that there's so much strength at fullback that you don't really have to do that if you don't want to. I mean, okay, you know, there's nothing wrong with three at the back. I mean, Southgate played in a very successful, England and Aston Villa. He played very successfully in three at the back systems. But no, I just think, by and large, they'll be more comfortable with four, and especially when you've got such brilliant fullbacks as these two could be, whoever the right back is.
Yeah. Seb, I know you've got a slight concern if England just play one defensive midfielder.
Yes.
But if you did play three at the back, you could actually match up with other opponents and not get outnumbered in the middle third. Is that how you do it, or would you somehow have more than just one defensive midfielder in a four at the back?
Manish, I think one of the great elements of the English national team over the past sort of 10, 15, 20 years is that matching up mentality. It's a fear of what other teams can do to England rather than a determination to actually be protagonists, for want of a better word. And so I think you asked Paddy about what Southgate may have learned from the 2018 World Cup. I think one of his biggest problems is one of the things he's learned is something he's not yet able to cure, because he doesn't possess the kind of multitasking midfielder who can match up with for instance, a Modric, a Rakitic, you know, players with a kind of almost a percussive hold over the rhythm of a game. England don't have that player. We've had a sort of rolling cast of auditions. So we tried Jordan Henson in the role. Harry Winks has been given not an extended opportunity, but some chances. Declan Rice, who I started off feeling very, very positive about, but I'm unsure whether he has the breadth of attributes to actually sit in the middle, sit in front of a defence and screen it properly with that blend of technique and, you know, muscular defensive work. We don't quite have the player for that. So I think there isn't really an answer to your question. I know it's a little bit of a cop-out and I'm sitting on the fence a bit there, but that's what worries me. The heart of the team is not wired correctly, and at no point over this sort of 18-month cycle have we seen a solution which you think, yes, I would trust that in a game against the French, the Germans, the Spanish, the Italians. That concerns me.
Right.
Well, I think it's quite. I can see a 4-3-3 actually, which does work. Which would be your three would be, well, I'm going to chuck one in here because one of my midfield players would be Trent Alexander-Arnold. I think he's that good a player.
So who's at right back then?
Wan-Bissaka, and or Trippier. I mean, the thing about Trent Alexander-Arnold is that he's probably the best passer in the team. I mean, that's an extraordinary thing to say when we're not exactly short of them.
No.
But and probably the second best passer is Harry Kane. So a system which had with pace, two very quick attackers, even without a Vardy return, that would be Rashford and Sterling, with Harry Kane as a sort of false 9.5, just a little bit behind.
Withdrawn.
Just withdrawn slightly to bulk up the midfield. So you'd have almost like a diamond. You'd have the Trent Alexander-Arnold, Henderson, Ali, Dele, and as a sort of diamond-shaped midfield. I think that. I mean, I was working it out on the back of. I was going to say a cigarette packet. It was a chewing gum packet. It was,
much better for you.
Much better for you. Yes, I worked it out actually on an apple, and that's the way I would see. But the key is the pace up front from Rashford. And Rashford's, of course, just come into form at the right time. It's amazing how managerial changes have made Southgate's job so much easier.
Yeah, very interesting. Well, interesting too that you wrote it on an apple because I'm not peeling your formation. Seb?
Yeah, I don't know. That Alexander-Arnold, it's very tempting, but
You can't do it in a major tournament, though.
it's not that.
Well, especially as Liverpool won't do it.
I don't want to take him away from that right back spot. I agree with you completely. I think he's the finest passer in the team. I think his set piece delivery is an absolute essential quality. He's
you saw it in the last minute against Barcelona.
Absolutely.
I think that is the best corner kick I've ever seen him.
Yeah.
He said, I've been
exactly,
working for 50 years. That's the best corner kick I've seen in 50 years.
No.
Yes, by
I
a
think
mile.
you probably describe it as a footballing IQ, wouldn't you? He's very, very intelligent. But I wonder whether if you put him into the congested midfield, if you put him into an area where teams are going to press, particularly the base midfield where you're going to be meeting the point of the press.
That is the risk. Yeah.
What am I losing from fullback? Is I think the question that I want to answer, and we need to find a balance which is bold. I want to see Ali in there. I quite like to see Harry Winks' passing in there, with the provision that I don't want too much defensive responsibility on his shoulders.
If Eric Dyer hadn't, I don't know what's happened to Eric Dyer.
Well, I think there is a chance of a renaissance from him.
I hope so.
Jose Mourinho's there. He wanted him at United. He's going to feature more.
Player, he was arguably the best outfield player before Gareth came in and seemed to fancy different people. But and also he was used increasingly in the back four by Pochettino for Pochettino's own good reasons. And we lost really the best holding midfield player for me since Owen Hargreaves. In fact, you take away those two, and when was the last? Since Nobby Stiles? You know, they were the best two since Nobby Stiles. So, I think I would hope that renaissance. If you can see the possibility of a Dyer renaissance, then that gives you another option.
He's been given more of a look in at Spurs since Mourinho's come into the fold. But then that's not surprising because he wanted him when he was, like I said, at United in 2017. But
It's a difficult one. I mean, I think
who would your ideal kind of personnel-wise be in the midfield? And I don't want to dwell on this too long, so I've got to talk about Premier League.
No, that's fair enough. No, I think I'd have Winks because I need his distribution.
Okay.
I'd have Ali because I think he remains a very, very special player.
Yeah.
He's someone that if you play him in the same team as someone like Harry Kane, I'd want him slightly further forward because in my mind, the closer he is to Kane, the better he is. The more license he has to be expressive. Yeah. And at the moment, with an asterisk against Eric Dyer's name because I still want to see how his fitness works out over the next 6 months. I think you have to put in Henderson because I think you're asking these England players to perform at a level that he is one of very few players in the country who has experienced that.
Yes.
He is a Champions League winning captain, a Champions League winning midfielder, and whatever we think of Jordan Henderson's individual abilities and what his merits are against a Rice or a Winks, that is a mentality, something that has really inhibited England.
I know you asked the questions here. You're the boss. But may I ask a question of you?
Go on.
You haven't mentioned goalkeeper. Does that mean that you think Pickford is just so good with his feet?
No, I don't. I'm not.
you-
I've become less and less convinced
Yes.
over Jordan Pickford in recent months. I don't think his situation at Everton and the way their season's panned out has helped him mentality-wise. I think he's
maybe about to change.
possibly. So all I'm saying is I'm less convinced, but I think he's probably the better option of what we have.
Yeah, but they're not bad backup, are they?
No, not at all.
People like that.
I think Heaton's having a terrific season,
It's
actually.
Well, it's
the
fun-
unluckiest
listen,
goalkeeper I've
hey.
ever seen.
Fraser Forster.
Fraser Forster.
There's somebody who's having a renaissance.
Magnificent
Yeah.
for Celtic.
No, I'm shutting you down right there, Manish. No, I'm not having that.
No, I'm saying no. I'm just I'm playing to his Scottishness here.
Yeah, he's almost
But
semi-Scottish.
let's not put ideas like that into the realm.
No.
Encourage them.
Okay,
Let's-
but
let's
look,
shut that down.
would you have Pickford as your number one?
I think almost by default.
For his feet.
I think, unfortunately, I think Tom Heaton's time has passed him by. This sort of burst of form at Villa has come at the wrong
Yeah.
time. His window's closed, but I think Pickford, let's put it this way, Pickford hasn't quite done enough wrong to lose his position yet. I think that's the way to...
Okay.
The way to
So midfield's always been seen as a conundrum for Gareth Southgate. To go back to the England situation, what about the centre half? Just who partners? And do we assume Maguire is the first choice? So who is going to be next to him?
Mine would be Gomez because I just think he's a super footballer.
Yes.
Got over his injury. It's as if the injury never happened. Still as athletic, still as calm, still as careful, pretty good in possession as well. I can't see what's wrong with him.
Okay.
I just think he's terrific.
Yeah, I agree with Paddy completely. I think Gomez is the best footballing centre half we've got. Maguire has a sort of broader game. I think, interestingly, as a third centre half, because we know that Southgate likes to revert to that three occasionally, I think I want Kyle Walker in there. I know he's out of the picture at the moment, but a player with that set of abilities as a third centre half, okay, there isn't such a pressure on him to be an orthodox centre half.
And he
He's
can
someone-
still motor, can't he?
He can still motor. He's a gear change, Paddy. He's someone that can carry the ball 40, 50 yards and change the emphasis and point of an attack. And it's very useful in the international
Interesting
tournament.
point for Kyle Walker, because we were talking to him during the Premier League Asia Trophy in Shanghai. He's got a new deal, 5-year deal over there at City, but by far the first choice right back there at the minute. So it's interesting to see how that kind of pans out.
And he had a challenge, didn't he? They signed
Cancelo.
Yeah,
Cancelo,
and yeah, he's seen that off, and he. You always thought when you watched him as he came through at Sheffield United, and then
With Norton, of course,
with exactly the two Kyles.
Norton was supposed to be the better talent at
That's
the time,
right.
wasn't
Well,
he?
he certainly looked it when I saw them that game, that extraordinary game at Arsenal, and he's still got an error in him, and you have to say now always will, but he doesn't half know how to get out of it, and he has sort of Dani Alves pace. You could say maybe not quite Dani Alves delivery, but it's getting closer and closer.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's another thing. We're talking about right backs, and we'll leave out one of the best in European football over the last 5 years.
True.
So it's crazy. Nicely crazy.
What about dark horses for a late recall? Somebody who's coming up into the kind of the conscious of
I love Vardy.
Jamie Vardy and
He's retired,
Chris
but
Smalling.
I mean, not Smalling for me. I don't think his feet are good enough.
No matter what he does at Roma,
No,
There's
I
no
don't
way
think
back
so.
for you.
I don't honestly think. It's great that he's rehabilitated his career. He played more games than he missed at Man United under successive managers. He wasn't exactly, in a crisis.
he's got 31 caps.
I know, and he's quite a good, what I call a wrestling defender.
Yeah.
I think if a referee's applied the laws, he wouldn't get a job. I think he's a wrestler. but I think there's a reason for that. Given that he's so quick, he shouldn't need to be doing all that. But there's a reason for that. He's just not. You're talking about Gomez. You look at his feet, and then you look at Chris Smalling's. Good, fine. You get an injury crisis, absolutely fine. But not in a million years. And the other one you mentioned though was Vardy.
Yes.
I just love him. I just absolutely love the guy, and his pace, athleticism, and above all appetite survived the years. How old is he now? 33?
32. He's going to be 33. Not
Well, that's fine. 30, they're absolutely fine for a guy who. Isn't it funny how when they blossom late in their careers, they get a little bit added on?
It's a great story.
It's a wonderful story. And for me, if I'd been, if God forbid, if I'd been anywhere near England manager, I would have wanted him to see him play in every game. He would have been the first name on my team sheet.
Yeah.
Because of his attitude and the way he lifts the whole team and draws them forward.
This is the thing, isn't it? It's how something like that could affect the dressing room dynamic that won 7 of their 8 in qualifying by bringing someone in who didn't want to play in those games. How big a risk would that be then by Gareth?
It is a risk, Manish, but I think you've always got to respect the meritocracy. Southgate has tried to create this culture within the squad where it's not like it used to be, where it isn't a kind of, you have probably 95% of the squad who are assured of their place on the basis of where they play their football rather than how they're playing. So I like the idea of Vardy. What I'd say is, internationally, what has he really done? I'm aware of his attributes. I'm obviously aware of how well he's playing at Leicester City. But where does he fit into this style of play in the sense that England's attack is built with Kane as a focal point and these wonderfully quick, technically gifted players orbiting around him and creating all kinds of danger. I don't know where Vardy fits into that dynamic.
Okay, plan B though, off the bench.
Maybe in a desperation, but it feels like we're always making that argument too. It's always there's always an Andy Carroll or a Peter Crouch in our pocket, or
Carroll's done okay for Newcastle.
or a Kevin Davis somewhere. Let me throw out one name.
At the time of
Jack Grealish. Jack Grealish. I know what.
Wonderful.
There is a chance we've missed the boat on Jack.
And
we're running out of.
We've also forgotten about Maddison.
Yes.
But he's in the squad at the moment, Paddy.
Yeah, but he's a candidate.
He's
for starter.
Yeah.
He's got in my squad.
You're talking about all-purpose. I mean, maybe not. But he can tackle.
Yeah.
He can pass. And he can run.
Yeah. And he takes free kicks.
And he takes free kicks. Apart from that, I don't fancy it. But Grealish,
what a footballer! Just as the aesthetic? We've all spent time in press boxes. There is no better player in the country to watch than Jack Grealish. Just from an enjoyment perspective, it's just to see him in front of the whole end with the ball, driving towards a thicket of defenders, and just to see him express himself. I cannot believe that England can't find a way of exploiting those attributes. If they can't, then we should just give up.
What is it?
I know he's a luxury item in a way.
Is Gareth Southgate, is he just too, almost conscious of the fact that he plays at Villa where he made his name, that he doesn't want to go back and be seen as favouring one of his own? It seems like such an obvious thing, whereas Maddison's only just been given his first cap not that long ago. Grealish is still there waiting for his first call-up.
I don't know.
People, if I ask, we were hosting at the weekend, it was Villa against Leicester, it was Grealish against Maddison. 9 times out of 10, whoever I asked, ex-player or manager, they'd go for Grealish over Maddison if they had to choose one.
It'd be a nice choice, but the other thing with Grealish is that he might not be thinking of politics. He might not be thinking of whether he fancies the guy enough. But to go back to, rewarding the guys who've got you there, would you want to bring in somebody else at this stage, even if you think he might be as good as?
Yeah.
He probably feels, I don't need to experiment. I've got enough players.
And any more will just muddy the water.
Yeah, or risk that. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, the things Southgate has said about Grealish concern me a little bit in the sense he talks about him as a wide forward, almost exclusively, as a player that is supposed to be competing with a Jadon Sancho or a Callum Hudson-Odoi, Marcus Rashford. I don't think he's that player. I mean, I know it's not really my place to disagree with being the manager, but at the same time, what his best performances that I've seen in person have all been as a kind of a central playmaker, someone with a little bit of license, who possibly favours the left side of the pitch. But who has this wonderful passing range.
Do you think he works enough for the team? I mean,
Probably
in Villa's system, he does, because there's McGinn's and all that.
Yes.
I think it's a very fair point, Paddy. Probably not, but then at the same time, if you're in a situation where you've got a Grealish coming off the bench in a World Cup, European Championship scenario, you're probably needing to take a risk anyway. And so you're not building a midfield to accommodate someone like that, but you're saying this is someone that can do things with the ball at his feet that we can't really legislate for.
Also,
the
it's worth
defenders
having-
don't really want to face.
He's useful. You can give him a dead ball as well.
Absolutely,
So,
absolutely.
I just think his ability just to
go
attract
past
players,
players, exactly.
Yeah.
attract 3 or 4 players, and get past them with consummate ease.
And win free kicks,
We'll
yeah.
always, well, he'll always be fouled.
He's brave.
Yeah.
You know, that's the one thing about him.
Always want the ball, and actually, boiled down to its essence, that's been one of the big problems for England, is players in quarterfinals, semi-finals, even group games, do you actually want the ball? Do you genuinely want the ball at your feet, and do you want the responsibility of trying to change the game? Grealish would. Grealish has the ego for that challenge.
I hope you've enjoyed that. Don't forget to keep following us via Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all the social media channels, and on HaytersTV for much more of the same and more on the debate.